Hello everyone, my name is Linda Marveng. I'm a Norwegian knitwear designer living in Norway. I want to do a short presentation of myself, and then I want to talk about the two workshops I'm going to hold at Barcelona Knits this November, where I hope to see you. I learned to knit as a child. I was not particularly good, but I took my revenge on my teachers much later as a teenager. Knitting was something I always wanted to do, but I did not dare to take an education in it, so I chose a different route instead. I did take my master's degree in art history in the UK. I worked there for a number of years and did not use my education too much, so I decided to work for Rowan Yarns as a design consultant. I also worked at a Loop knitting shop in London for a number of years, and it was then that I was asked by a Norwegian publisher to make a book, which I thought was a great challenge because I've been designing for a couple of years by then. That was back in 2008. Let me show you my Norwegian knitting book. This is how that looks, and this is the back side. I am very interested in cables. I love the three-dimensional knits. I look into working in different knitting directions. I've been researching and working on some pockets on different garments, and at the moment I'm very happy knitting dresses. Let me also show you my book was not translated into English, but it was translated into Finnish. They chose a different cover. They did stay with the same back cover though. I've also taken part in a Norwegian knitting book called Norsk strikkedesign. The design on the cover is one of those by Arne and Carlos, which is probably the most well-known Norwegian designers. I do, however, much more love the English version, which is called Knit Like a Norwegian, and the designs on the cover are mine. I've also done submission to different magazines like Interweave Knits, the American magazine, and here is one of my designs, the Adeline's cardigan, and that was featured on the cover. I've done designs for Pom Pom, and I will show you that design a bit later in my presentation, but let me show you the version that was knitted up by Pom Pom for the magazine, and my sample is actually a different colour, so I'll show you that shortly. I also done submission for the Fibre Company, and here is one of my designs for the Fibre Company. These days I also do a collaboration with Hillesvåg Ullvarefabrikk. That is the latest brochure they have made with my designs. I can show you one of the older leaflets and a popular dress that I have made. I also do translation work for other designers as well as for one of the Norwegian magazines which have a lot of knitting patterns. I do formatting, I do a bit of proofreading, and I hold workshops. So I'm very much looking forward to coming back to Barcelona Knits. I was there back in 2019, and that's where I met Catherine Walk, who runs Walk Collection, the yarn company. And this pullover I'm wearing, it's called Kolga. That's knitted in one of her sport weight yarns. Behind me you have my most popular design, that is the Oidis pullover. It looks like a beautiful tweed yarn, and it is, but actually two that I've held together to get that tweed structure I wanted. Like a lot of my designs, it knitted from the bottom and up in pieces and seamed. I've done the curve at the bottom of this, and I've done garter stitching in the sides. And you see how I've ended the cable at the top there and have garter stitch around the neckline. Here is another pullover that is popular. This is the Prescott pullover, made in the fibre company Silk Yarn, Acadia. That has a slight A-line silhouette, also knitted in pieces and seamed with a double collar. So next I will talk a bit about the workshops I'm going to hold in Barcelona. Here is my yellow golden pullover. This is also a design I made for Interweave Knits. I wanted to show you that because the cable knitting masterclass is one of the workshops I will be doing, and this is one of the cables that you will actually have a go at if you take part in the class. Cables are a source of inspiration for me. I love the texture they give. I love the fun it is to actually knit cables. I will show how to knit cables with the cable needle and without a cable needle, how to correct them, how to end cables at a neckline, for instance. And this is one of the cables where you actually need 2 cable needles, because as you can see it's a cable that is actually divided in 3 parts. Usually cables are divided into 2 parts, but this is into 3. I will also be teaching how to correct mistakes you're doing and how I put cables together in a design, and give you other tips on how to count the row or rounds in between each cable crossing. I will also be teaching how to work reversible cables like I've done in this scarf that's called kaya. Where I've used 2 yarns held together and then knitted on quite small needles to get that to get the cables popping. So you see, this is the right side. It's a set of sand cables worked in a rib with some garter stitch in between. And here you see the wrong side, which looks very similar. It's not identical, but it looks very similar and makes the scarf look beautiful on both sides. So I hope you will join me for the cable knitting masterclass. The other workshop I will be doing, and now I'll remove this scarf, is a class on finishing. And then I will teach you how to do finishing professionally. It's one of those things I actually enjoy doing. I know a lot of knitters do not enjoy it, so I'm hoping to teach you how to enjoy it more and give you some tips on how you can learn to enjoy it and also to do it as neat as you do your knitting. I will go through the different types of seams you can make on your garments, different methods of sewing up, like you can see here. I tend to prefer to use a crochet hook and a slip stitch seam, but I'll go through the different options of doing the seams. What I also will be teaching is how to set in a sleeve. This is my Ataraxa cardigan, the sample made for pom-pom. The sample colour was too bright to actually fit in the collection, so that's why the magazine has a green cardigan, while my sample is the bright orange. So I will teach you how to set in sleeve and ease them in so that they fit properly, how to seam it so it looks neat around the armhole. I will show you how to do a 3-needle bind off, and we will talk about short row shaping on the shoulders, how to pick up stitches and several tips how to do that evenly and neatly, as well as tricks on making buttonholes to make them neat and not just so they will loosen or not look good. So yes, there is a lot of things going on in the professional finishing class. I will also talk through things like blocking and give you ideas for how to improve it and actually start enjoying doing your finishing. So regards from Norway. I hope to see you in Barcelona in November.